All in favor? Aye. Well, the minutes, September 7th. Thanks, Johnny, you're here, huh?
Yep. I move to approve the minutes from September 7th.
Second.
All right, we got it. The minutes, you said, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Anybody got a conflict on, anything, public comment? Anybody got anything to say? Than us? Okay, no supervisors not seated, committee members. Yes, not here. I suppose you're gonna handle it, huh, Chad?
Yeah, Vince is out for the rest of the week, so you guys are stuck with me. Let's see where we are. I'm pulling up the. So I won't, I'll give you the budget piece in the next part. Just a couple updates. The SFA study is underway. We've got that. But there's not much update on that, so we can combine 12 into this. The study's underway. I do know that they've met with, we had our on-site visits, I believe it was last week, that went on all day. I was in there for part of them, and then they went out and did a tour of the county and met with stakeholders throughout the county and did face-to-face visits last week. And then we also had stakeholders up here at the government center later on in the afternoon. And I heard the feedback was very that study's. CJCC, I'll wait till we get to that. Other than that, I don't have any updates that aren't covered elsewhere in the agenda.
Okay. Do we have any questions? Hearing none. Go ahead.
So if more than one or two or three county board members attend these meetings you're having them up.
Yeah, I mean,
how are we gonna handle that?
well, I
I'm a
mean,
little discouraged and I didn't even know about them, kept hearing about it from the public.
but I think at this point, the administrators having them as kind of fact finding and part of the study. But I think reach out to Vince, and then we'll have to do a notice from the clerk's office that a possible quorum would be present. We need to do that possible quorum notice, even if we only have one or two that say we're going to show up somewhere. As a safety measure, we should always do that possible quorum notice, just in case multiple people show up. Just always a safeguard.
Nice to hear the other side. Good night, you.
Okay.
Mo is at training. He's on return, so he's
Okay, fine.
Yeah, I'll be filling in for Mo today. Updates on county and state projects. Everything's sort of wrapping up in a hurry here, getting towards the end of the season. County Road I-5's been resurfaced and shouldered. Striping crews are on site this week. They're behind due to labor shortages. I ordered striping for our chip seal roads months ago, but those are all on track to be striped this week. So W3 up there, I-5, GG, all the chip seal roads we did, and State Road 35 from Highway 8 north to Luck, where we did the performance-based maintenance crack seal for WISDOT this year. That's getting restriped by us also. So you'll see a lot of line striping in the county during this week. The State Highway 35 PBM for WISDOT is going to be complete today. And then we'll be starting routine maintenance work on crack sealing on State Highway 35 north of the county to Siren as a cooperative agreement with Burnett County for the chip seal they did into Frederick this year on State Highway 48. The pipe failures on State Highway 48, that those pipes we should see shipping the end of this month, October, and hopefully be installed first thing in November. We're hoping we can still get hot mix asphalt from Monarch to Patchat this year. It's getting really late in the season, but with 8-week lead times on these pipes and waiting for several months to get approval from the governor's office, it's put everything way behind on that project. There will be a detour in place for that. State Highway 48 East will be closed during that project. Approximately 3 to 4 days, we're rerouting traffic on county roads, O up to W and back down County Road E to bypass that project area. And then County Road F guard beam on that federal project that was installed last week in preparation for the federal project that got moved up to 2022. So there by Bear Trap Court, we resloped that entire area, widened the shoulders, and then Madison Contractors was on site last week to install that guard beam in preparation for that project coming up. That's about all I had for the county and state updates on the construction. And then Mo mentioned to me briefly about the ATV speed limits. He said that they are still being discussed. There was some issues with people arguing that they can't change the statutory speed limit on the county roads for different types of vehicles. But it sounds like that's getting worked out, and it sounds like it's going to be able to remain the reduced speed for the ATV speed limit and the regular traffic at the 55 miles an hour. That's all I really had on that from Mo, was discussing that they're working through that. And he's got a note on here about the commissioner committee members in Hayward. Let's have a meeting coming up. Questions on the stuff I had?
Date of that meeting is the 21st. 9 a.m.
9:30.
9:30.
Are we gonna meet about 8:30, Dr. J?
Do something at 8:31.
Are we got to go to that commissioners meeting? Isn't that the one where the highway committee always went to?
Yeah, well, we used to take a
Yeah.
van, but we don't have one anymore. But I think we'll have to make special arrangements with each other about sharing a ride if we want.
Mr. Chair, we do have a couple traverses now and all that can probably accommodate it. We have a couple SUVs.
Let's leave it to Mo to decide whether or not he wants to run a van up there or meet at the, Mo will let you know.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. Hey, Sheriff. Kid. You got something for us?
Always.
I'm sure.
Just outside, and if after the meeting, I would invite all of you to walk out and take a look. We brought our new boat for the rec patrol program. We were able to buy a new boat this year. Don brought it over, so it's just outside there. One thing, we got some really nice electronics in it for, as you know, the sheriff is statutorily required to recover bodies in a drowning situation. So we've got a really high-tech Garmin Panoptics underwater sonar system for it. So knock on wood, we haven't had to do any of that this summer. We've had a fantastic year on our lakes, but just in case, we're prepared for that. That's part of the DNR Rec Patrol, where we depreciate the cost of that boat over 5 years. But again, it's a piece of equipment that we often need and we utilize. We're blessed with lakes and resources in this county. So hopefully you'll walk out and take a look at that. Friday, Don and I went down to the Stour Trail as extra patrol. As you know, horses were allowed for the first time on the Stour Trail. And we went out there and there wasn't any issue. I think it went quite well. But Malia and I worked on an affidavit that we supplied as part of the legal action to say that we do provide patrol. And we do 24/7. We always have deputies available. And then in addition to that, we have a rec patrol officer. So happy to help out in that particular case. We had a standoff at the Balsam Lake Motel last month that ended. The suspect chose to take his own life. That incident is still under investigation, so I don't want to get too much into details with it, but I can tell you that our men and women performed very well. And then we requested additional help from the Barron County Sheriff's Office. Our officers laid out through 2 thunderstorms that night, negotiating with this gentleman. And that's the kind of commitment we have out of law enforcement in this county, and I'm extremely proud of the work they do. I know later on, we're going to talk about ARPA funds here, and I just want to quick mention that one of the things we're asking for, I frequently hear from the fire departments in the valley, as well as the police departments that work in the valley, that there's a lot of hurdles with communications. So we're going to talk later about the ARPA situation here, and I just want to say that that is truly a need in this county. We have a void of radio coverage in the river valley, and it does present officer safety issues. We have documented issues of officer safety where the officers have tried to get out on the radio in a hostile situation and we're not successful. That's happened twice in the last year, once at the hospital and once downtown at a bar fight. That's all I have. Any questions? Well, we'll give you the $5 tour of the boat when we're all done here.
Okay, CJCC. I'm sorry, go ahead.
We had another excellent meeting today. One of the things that Ben talked about is that there's an engineering firm up in Clam Falls, right looking at the, and it's to look at the mitigation things that have to be done to complete. Like not Sterling, that's dry, but there's places that have to be fixed, and if you go over, what was it, 10,000 square feet?
Yeah.
I thought it was 10,000 square feet, then you have to do a payback plan.
1,000 square feet
Of wetlands.
Wetland.
Yeah, I'm sorry. And so Ben has talked with the DNR on the phone, and they've explained the rules, what they have to have accomplished, and that's why the engineering. And they're trying to run some high ground around these spots for as much as they can. So that's a good news today because it had slowed down for everything. But well, they also mentioned they were asked about easement because they're to try and have some on farmland going the edge of fields, putting all this together so that they can go along with the project.
Who was the engineering firm?
I didn't even ask today. He just
Where's he? What's his, how did he just pop up or what?
oh yeah, they Derek Moore is here and he's from the EIO club.
Oh,
And
okay.
they've increased the membership of that club. And they're the ones that are actually working on this trail to get it accomplished. And he was talking about, we turned around and then Ben said that this engineer came, I thought he said today, they're up there looking at the trail and what gets done. And it's something that has to be accomplished.
For the EIO club up to the snow.
Yeah, it's both ATV now and UTV
Really?
and so.
Been separated. I can't remember the name of the club though. Boondock something. Dock. Starting with the, I don't remember. But it's a new ATV club now.
Same people, basically.
Basically, yeah. They might have to still connect up with the snowmobile club if they go across private land.
Out in Sterling, sounds like they're gonna start the campsites in March. Toward the end of October, I thought that's what they're gonna do the perimeter first and get the outlay so they can get the campsites ready to go. I was out there Saturday and not riding, but I drove out to see how things are going. Group of 6 machines came off the trail. I got out and talked to them. They just couldn't rave enough about what's going on. I think it's just absolutely fantastic. Some of them were Minnesota people and some were local. And I should have got the name of this one fellow, but there was people talking to me from this side and this side, and it was just fantastic to see how much they felt the trail was fun. everything is coming together as we work.
Jeez, that's great.
Yeah. Well, the one issue they had, just because they didn't want to complain, but about the bathrooms. Hopefully that something can be accomplished to make that better. Eventually it can be done. It's just that we're running out of money for the campsites. Oh, there's a question answer there.
Ecosystems is the name of the engineering firm from Rice Lake that's out there doing it.
System, Rice Lake.
Yep.
Anybody have anything else? Have more? That's it. Does anybody have any questions in reference to that project? Well, much better, I thought. Good. Okay. Thank you a lot, Doug.
Mr. Chair,
Yeah, oh, Johnny, yeah.
Dave?
Yeah.
are they gonna rent, porta potties on, quite a few of these campsites?
They wants to know if we're gonna rent any porta potties.
So we discussed that today too, because there are some around the county.
Yep.
So that's in the discussion now. And make it better.
We're gonna, did you get that, John?
Yep, I did. Thank you, Chief.
Okay. All right, thanks a lot. Now. Put you in turn.
I'll stand up here. Regarding CJCC, we're still in the recruitment phase for the coordinator. I will say I'm very proud though, and I want to give special thanks to Don Wortham from UW Extension and to the CJCC staff and to Lisa Lavasser from Behavioral Health, because without a coordinator, they had to work in conjunction with me to write the grant, the 5-year grant. You all recall the CJCC is about 50 to 60% funded by a 5-year recurring grant. We were up for new grant process this year. That was a really heavy lift without a coordinator in place. So we actually got the grant in by the deadline, and I think it looks pretty sound. We're asking for $150,000 a year baseline for the next 5 years. So we should know about that grant probably in November or December. I wouldn't expect before then. They've had some turnover at Wisconsin DOJ. So for the budget, I'm going to go ahead and budget for the grant for the $150,000 because I anticipate we'll get it. But as with all grants, I got to throw it out there. It's possible we won't be awarded the grant, in which case that money would hit the levy. But the grant is finished, and I think it was a very good product when we finished it off. Having the audit this summer helped us a lot, address a lot of our issues. What we're seeing in the CJCC, we're actually seeing participation in drug court pick up some. Our number of people in the system are up. Our number of applications are up, and our number of referrals are actually starting to come up, which first time. Programs are starting to get a little bit of traction. That's not to say we're firing on all cylinders where we should be. We're moving in the right direction. Glad to see that. What's next up? You got the agenda. I think that's all for CJCC. What I got next on there, I'll have it in front of me. Sports Ag Complex we covered. Vince will have more info for you guys and for the board in the coming meetings. That's his spearhead project. I attended one of the meetings, but I've been so tied up with budget that I left after a couple hours. Back to So if you'll pull up the ARPA funds presentation. We're going to go over the budget, but Vince wanted me to touch on this with you. So we've been working on ARPA categories, which will be a committee of the whole discussion. But we also think it's important to take to each committee the categories and the requests we've already gotten in those categories as they pertain to the committee. So there's just a couple slides here. You've also got a printout of it. What I did is I went through and I highlighted the requests that have to do with this committee in particular. just to kind of go over those briefly. And Vince, the feedback, we want to know what ideas you guys want us to pursue further, what you want longer presentations on, what you want more detail and more investigation by staff. So we broke them into 5 categories: infrastructure, environment, water quality, parks, trails, recreation, health and safety, and local community projects. We based those 5 categories on the resolution that you guys wanted this to be county centric and county minded. And then we started putting the requests in those categories. In infrastructure, you'll see there's a good bit of highlight that has to do with this, that you guys have public works. Fairgrounds, we don't have a dollar value of that. That's just, there's a generalized request. The Justice Center roof, our building over there is 16, 17 years old now. It has one of those rubber membrane roofs. It's time to replace. And about, minimum $1 million. Rod's giving me the thumbs up higher. That's the last number MOTOS having.
All the age of the building.
The age of the building, is it older than that? How old is it? Okay. All right, so it's about 18 years old. So there's $1 million roof that needs to be put on over there. Government mechanical update, we've set the hard number at 7.7 million. ARPA funds could be used towards that now that we've claimed them as lost revenue. We could also bond for either of those items because they're capital expenditure. Museum roof, bell tower, $150,000 to replace the roof and repair the bell tower. And then the 5-year capital improvement plan, which will get us part of the full budget when it's released to general government next week. We do a 5-year capital planning down the road. What's it look like this year, all the way through 2026? We could use the ARPA funds for the items on there. So that's something to start considering. That was a suggestion from one of the board members. For health and safety, things that pertain to this, public safety radio site, St. Croix Falls, as the sheriff mentioned, that'd be an additional radio site. You're also going to see in the budget piece we go over shortly, replace the microwave radio system. That's a part of our radio system on the towers. That piece is very old. It was some kind of trade-offs were made when the radio system was built in order to save money, and that microwave system needs replaced. That's $1.1 million. That serves all the fire departments, all the village police, all the EMS, the sheriff's office. Inpatient treatment, drug, alcohol addiction centers and housing. So that's Health and Human Services and this committee, since it has to deal with substance. And then a command post. The sheriff's office has a command post one right after 9/11 that you've noticed public health is using for vaccination clinics. We use it for prayer. We use it big scenes. That thing's aged and out of date. Numbers on that can run from 350,000 to 800,000. And go to the next slide. And so the other ones, which the non-highlighted ones are not this committee specific, but these are the local community projects that have been put forward, requested to the administrator. Of everything from a wellness center in Amory, to a well replacement in Clayton, the alum treatment at Big Round Lake, to boat ramp at Milltown Village, where we'd fund a third of it. So you can see those are kind of the things. So the reason we wanted to put it out there was, number one, give the administrator some feedback on what you want us to investigate further, provide greater detail, dig down on for you, and so that you guys had an idea of the requests that have come in and the categories. Any questions on that?
Just have one, or I have two, but
Yes, sir.
up there it says Half Moon Lake Cleaning Station. Is that projecting what Half Moon's going to do with their lake the district?
I think that is a cost share as well. I think they've asked for
November.
I think they've asked for a cost share on that one.
November.
Like, they were talking in the 20,000s.
Yeah, and some of these are cost share, and I'm trying to keep track of which one. The town of Osceola is a cost share. Milltown Village is a cost share. I believe Half Moon Lake, they've asked for cost share. St. Croix Falls was a cost share. I believe Amory was a cost share. And what was your other question?
And another one. It kind of goes with both, I assume, but the next 15 is annual budget amendments.
Yes, sir.
And we had a chart from Kinship, started at like 100,000 and it's down to, I thought 37. I didn't bring the chart.
I think we're at 37 now. Yes, sir.
So what I'm looking at is at what point do we make a motion to amend the budget to increase that amount?
So we're finalizing the administrator's budget now. General government gets the full budget first on October 13th. And then each committee, you remember the template you guys get that shows the performance and how it's broken down. You'll get each of those between October and the November board meeting. And you guys make your amendments to the budget during that period, between October and November. So what happens is any deletions you create from the administrator's budget, I take out. Any additions I put in, and then we finalize the budget. That's why we wanted to get the ARPA ideas out to you too, in case there's things you see in the budget that you're like, well, maybe we want to use ARPA money for that. Yes, sir.
What's the chances of the ARPA money? I mean, we can't budget for it, there's no guarantee for it.
Well, we have the guaranteed 4.235 million. We have that. I'm going to say again, and I keep stressing to Vince, that, you know, I'm really conservative on this. There's a clause in that ARPA Act that says only provide the money if they have it to give. And so that second tranche of money, I really urge the board not to spend that second $4 million until we know for sure. And we're not going to know for sure till May. So I would encourage you guys to not factor that into your planning at first, because we all know how.
I think that's good. I think that's good thinking.
Yeah, we all know how intended money from the federal government goes. So, yeah, we have the 4.235 million in the bank, so that's a safe thing.
All right. And all these projects that are qualified for that fund.
Yes, so we recovered that money as lost revenue because under their mythical numbers, we should have brought this in 2020 and Willie brought this in so we can claim it all as lost. So you guys can allocate that money on anything government's legally allowed to allocate it on, so long as you don't use it to provide a tax relief to the citizens. Odd as that sounds, you cannot provide a local tax relief based on ARPA money. Meaning we can't fail to take levy dollars to pay for something and not tax them for that, for something we were intending to pay for with levy dollars, and use ARPA money.
If they got a balance and they add some money, they'll want to some project. Revenue.
Right. Yep. So you just can't provide, tax relief. It's your clause.
This person I never run a answer account can sure figure that.
So the other thing you guys have is going along with the budget. You'll see this one sheet of paper here, and it has two different sections on it. The first, can you pull that up for 1 second? Okay. The first are the administrator approved and recommended additional funding requests that have to do with this committee. I will say we got about $3.3 million in additional funding requests this year from departments. Really, really high number. And the administrator either approved or put forward to the committees a little over 80% of those. Got a lot of requests for funding, and he put most of them forward. But what has been approved and recommended, what I'm building into the budget, for highway, we've increased their recurring levy by $150,000. This allows Mo to keep up with consumer price indexing and also keep up on his projects. Because you know the way their funding works, the more projects they get done, the more funding they get, and they've got to meet certain goals. We haven't increased highways levy for that in a while. So that'll be a recurring thing. We added 150,000 to their overall. Josh can explain that one better. You guys went deeper on it. Facilities has several. The addition of audio and video to courtroom 3. We have audio and video in courtrooms 1 and 2, but now that so much court is conducted remotely, and we have found a lot of efficiencies and court runs faster, we don't have it in courtroom 3. That's $95,000, and the administrators recommended that, put that in there. Crack seal of the parking lots at Justice Center and Endeavors, $30,000. That's part of Rod's plan to better maintain our facilities and keep things up. Replace the overhead doors on the jail Sally Port. That's something that's been a problem for a couple of years. That's $18,000. Replacement of several small building roofs at Fairgrounds, $25,000. Repair or replace broken sidewalks at Justice Center Endeavors and CISA, $10,000. Painting of offices and government center, giving Rod some money to do just some painting when things get really bad, $5,000. Scrape and paint county-owned buildings at Fairgrounds, $5,000. And an update to the museum restrooms. And is it making them ADA compliant, Rod? Okay, ADA compliant, $15,000 at the museum. So for law enforcement, $20,500 for upgrade of the Equiture dispatch software. This is like their quality assurance, quality improvement software, so they can make sure that they're getting all the information. The supervisor can make sure that we're serving the public well. That's $20,500. Install fencing for secure evidence storage at the Justice Center. The sheriff has had a need for some time. You guys see all the wrecks behind the Justice Center. We get crime vehicles or anything like that. Right now, they're having to go in to the garage. That's still not secure because we've got so many people in and out. So it's for an impound lot essentially for the sheriff out back. Also had an incident. Didn't we have an incident where somebody tried to get in one of the vehicles to get something out at one point?
Yeah, and it's always a bad situation when we have a fatality and the car sits there and then the public comes up. It just would be nice to have a fenced-in secure area. And it's an eyesore with the village in the past has complained about it.
So that's $36,000. Replace an ATV for patrol or ATVs. $9,000. And body worn cameras for the sheriff's office, $33,000. Now it's possible that they'll receive some grant money for that, but we're just going to go ahead and base on the fact that we're not getting the grant. It's something I think all the sheriff wants for the deputies. And it's good practice. That's a recurring cost. And for the district attorney, if you guys recall last year, the DA at the last minute wanted to do a part-time investigator, but we tossed around this year. We came up with a proposal. They just asked for $10,000 one-time funding to hire contract investigators, follow up on bigger cases, to tie up loose ends and all. We're going to see how much of a need is actually there rather than add any kind of FTE to the payroll. So it's a $10,000 line item to pay for supplemental investigative services. There's a lot of times when the DA will want to follow up on the cases, and the sheriff's office investigators are overwhelmed with their caseload that's constantly coming in, and the investigators will prep cases, and they've got them all ready, and then the DA will come back and say, "Oh, can you follow up on this, follow up on that?" And to be honest, the chief over there, chief deputy, does not have the resources to follow up when he's got new cases coming in. So that would allow them to follow up on their case. So hopefully better prosecution, better conviction rate. Also, the administrators recommended public safety, public works related projects of $461,500. That's what he's recommended and approved. What he's recommended for consideration by the committee is your second block there. And these are the ones, to Mr. Rowdy's point, you guys to toss around before November, if you want to put in the budget or not, is for facilities, replace the lighting in all the courtrooms with LED lighting, $45,000. Saves on maintenance costs because there's a lot of bulb changes that occur with fluorescent lighting. And it'll be over a long period of time, there'll be payback. But it's not quick. It's a very long period of time for LED payback. replace 3 entry doors at the museum, $20,000. Is that to make them look more historic, Rod? Efficiency. So he approved 15,000 for the bathrooms at the museum, but he's putting the entry doors to you guys for consideration. And then law enforcement is the big one. As we talked about, it could also be an ARPA project, but $1.1 million for the microwave system. That's the single biggest ask for the new funding, but he recommended that be put for the committee and for the board.
Would that be a project sharing with the community?
That's never been done before. It's not a bad idea. Common
I
complaints.
think that might, I don't know if it'll qualify,
And, you know, the radio system is an interesting thing, as the sheriff provides law enforcement services in the absence of other law enforcement. So if they don't have 24 hours, the sheriff has to back them up. Or we'll send for emergency. But the sheriff provides the only communication system for the entire county, and all the communities take part in that. So that would be for the board to think about.
gotta see if it's available. Number.
And I will say with our radio system, keep in mind this thing is 17 years old. 17 years old. So everything has a life. It was very expensive last time we did it. Now we're starting to see, last year we bought $400,000 in radios for cars and deputies. And we purchased a $1.2 million contract to keep dispatch upgraded from that side. The radio systems are very expensive component, but it is a lifeline.
Is that you, Johnny, or is your voice changing?
What's that?
Are you trying to say something?
No, I can hear you.
Got a beeping going on.
So, are there any
I'm
questions?
heading over to Regents. I'm heading over to Regents. Got to get an MRI.
All right.
So are there any other questions on that or a deeper dive? The chief deputy can give you very detailed on the microwave system if you need that.
I think that's something we should.
So is that something that in the November meeting after the budget's put out that we want a presentation on, or?
Well, I would think possibly, I think we should, the other communities that might be interested in that. I mean, I'm just speaking for myself.
So I think that's probably a better question for the sheriff and chief deputy. I'm not sure if they've any input in that regard.
The ARPA funds do qualify for this?
That would be ARPA as well. So
So why couldn't we go to the communities and say percentage of their ARPA?
that would be within the board's prerogative to do so.
I don't know that we would have leverage, so in order to induce them to come in, because it is the sheriff's department that is obligated to have the communication system itself. There's no harm in asking. I just don't know what kind of leverage there would be to induce them to.
You might have better leverage in an area, as the sheriff mentioned, where we don't have a tower. Some history on that. That tower was cut out of the first plan to save some money. You might have better leverage with that because you're in an unserved area specifically. Whereas this is just keeping up the system we have. It is a county centric. It provides services different. So I guess for whether now or whether you send it to the administrator or let us know what you want us to deeper dive on, or what you want presentations on in November.
Okay.
In November, you will get individual budgets for each of your departments. You're not gonna see, these are all the changes in them now, but where you'll see the actual line item amounts and the shifts and changes. And then if you have any amendments, that will be the time to put them forward from the committee. So they'll move from the committees to general government and then general government to the board at the November budget meeting. Does that answer?
We still pass the budget November 12th by statute.
I think it's November 9th this year. I believe it's November 9th this year.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, we have, if you guys recall, we have to have the budget meeting early in November, move the board meeting because of the statute. Is that right, Malia? The 9th? Second Tuesday of November, so it'll be the 9th. Guys.
Thank you. I suppose that covers pretty much of our annual budget review and budget amendments that we might be considering. Unless anybody's got some comment, reference 14 and 15. We can go right to the work plan. Get that. Anything else in the work plan that you
Don't think so. The only thing we may need with the resolution to accept the tag grant from this committee or through general government.
General government.
Okay, so it won't be on this work plan, so disregard.
else for the next meeting, other than the normal?
Next meeting, November 2nd.
First Tuesday. Driving, or you got a calendar handy?
That'd be correct, November 2nd.
Got it. Want to adjourn,
Go ahead,
John,
go
or do
ahead.
you want to continue for a while? Are you still with us? All right. Need a motion to adjourn?
I so move.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All right. We adjourn.